What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, coming at you with my review of the Google Pixel 6a. So let's get started. Now, for full disclosure, I am part of Team Pixel, and this device is a gift from Google, so keep that in mind. However, all opinions expressed in this video are completely my own. Now, the Pixel 6a is the successor to last year's Pixel 5a, and it's continuing on the trend of offering a lot of value here for a mid-range device. Now, there certainly are quite a few things that are new this year. For example, this device features pretty much the same design as the Pixel 6 and Pixel 6 Pro, and we're getting a whole different processor with this phone, which is the Google Tensor. But I'm looking forward to going through all the various highlights and things that I found interesting about this phone all throughout this video. Now, before I show you a variety of different things about the device, let's see what all comes included here in the box. So here is the box. You can see right there, Pixel 6a. And by the way, to see the most up-to-date pricing for this device, take a look at the various links in the video description. This phone does feature a $449 MSRP, but you never know what deals might be out there, so definitely take a look. Now, included in the box isn't really much. We have a full-size USB adapter, and then we also have a double-sided USB-C cable. So unfortunately, there is no charger included here in the box, but that is pretty standard nowadays, unfortunately, for mid-range devices. Now, with the Pixel 6a, we're getting a pretty large 6.1-inch display. Now, this device is smaller than the Pixel 6 and Pixel 6 Pro, so certainly keep that in mind. But at the same time here, we are getting a very large canvas for content consumption. And this display does look really good. It's an OLED display. Now, it is limited at just 60 Hz for the refresh rate, but things do run very smoothly here, which is good. There's no lag to be found, so in general, I don't mind that it's just 60 Hz. Sure, 120 Hz or 90 Hz would always be better, but everything does work here plenty fine that you'll have no issues with using the phone, and the whole experience still looks very premium, at least when it comes to the display. Now, thanks to this phone being OLED, we do get very good viewing angles here, so in general, this phone has a great looking panel considering that it is a mid-range phone. Now, this display is 1080p, we have a PPI of 429, we have a 20:9 aspect ratio, so a more narrow but taller form factor, which does make this phone ideal for social media, because if you think about it, you're able to fit a lot more of your social media feed into a single frame, which means that technically you won't have to do quite as much scrolling to see everything to get caught up. And then finally, we do have an 83% screen to body ratio, so pretty small bezels all throughout. The bottom bezel is slightly thicker, but overall, this phone really does have a nice design and definitely very practically minded. Now, we do have a hole punch for the front-facing camera, and that camera is 8 megapixels. Now, stay tuned for later on in the video, as I'll be showing you a variety of different photo and video samples from all the various cameras on this device. Now, this phone is offered in a base storage configuration of 128 gigabytes, but unfortunately, there is no micro SD card expansion. So if you do want to offload photos and videos, for example, onto an SD card, like you can with many other mid-range Android devices, you cannot do that here with the Pixel 6a. Now, for many people, that's not a problem. Of course, 128 gigabytes is quite a bit here, but if you are expecting this phone to have an SD card slot, then just know that we're not getting it here. Now, there's also no wireless charging to be found with the phone. So if you do like to do wireless charging, then you might have to go for a different device because you literally don't get it here. And this device has an in-display fingerprint sensor that works really well. So nice and quick there. We'll try this one more time. So definitely very accurate, but unfortunately there is no face unlock. Now, on the back of this device, we have a dual camera setup, so there is no telephoto camera, which is found with the Pixel 6 Pro, but we do have a 12.2 megapixel main camera and a 12 megapixel ultra wide angle camera. Now, here's how things look through the camera app. This is the main camera right now. Then from here, we can switch over to the ultra wide angle camera to fit a lot more content into the frame. We can also head over to portrait mode to get those nice blurred out backgrounds. And we can do the same thing here with the front-facing camera. And if you want to, you can also crop out a little bit for a group selfie, which is pretty cool. There's also a dedicated night sight mode, so this phone performs very well in dark conditions. So if you want to take great low-light photos, you'll definitely be able to achieve that here with the Pixel 6a. Now, you'll be seeing later on in this video some photo samples from that, but overall, I'm very impressed. Now, with this phone, we do have 4K video recording for the rear camera as well as 1080p, but unfortunately, for the front-facing camera, there's only 1080p as an option. So there's no 4K video recording for the front-facing camera. So if that is a feature that you tend to use on your current Android phone or maybe a different device in the past, then just know that it's just 1080p for the front, but you at least get 4K for the rear camera on this phone. Now with this device, we're getting 6 gigabytes of RAM paired up with the Google Tensor processor. So overall, from my experience with this device, it certainly doesn't perform quite as fast as the Pixel 6 Pro, for example, but at the same time, for a mid-range phone, it does get the job done. Things run very smoothly. You won't have any issues playing your favorite games, unless it's like a really high-performance game. But for the most part, the majority of games will be fine on here. This phone is also great for social media, so you'll have no issues having multiple social media apps running in the background and switching between the two. So this phone is definitely plenty powerful for the majority of people out there. Now, unfortunately, at the time of recording this video, my favorite benchmarking app, known as Geekbench 5, is not available yet for this phone, so I don't know what those benchmark scores are, which is a bit disappointing because I do like to compare those to other phones that I do test. But overall, again, I've been pretty happy with the performance here, and I definitely feel like for a mid-range phone, it does get the job done. Now with this device, we're getting a 4,410 milliamp hour internal battery, and this phone does support up to 18 watt fast charging. Now keep in mind, if you want to charge this device at 18 watts, you need to make sure that the wall adapter you're using supports that wattage, because many of the ones out there, especially the low-end ones, max out at 5 watts. So if you just have a bunch of those laying around and you don't have an 18 watt fast charger, then don't be surprised if it seems like this phone is recharging relatively slowly. But again, if you do have an 18 watt fast charger, then at least you will be able to charge the phone at that rate. Now the software that we're getting here is Android 12. It does feature the Pixel experience, so there are some software features that are exclusive to this phone since it is a Pixel device. Now definitely take a look at the tips and tricks video that I've already created about this device as I go through a variety of my favorite features with it. But in general, I really like the software. I feel like it's nice and refined. Overall, everything's really easy to use, super simple here. So if you've used other Android devices in the past, this experience will definitely be very familiar to you. And this phone does have NFC, which is great. So if you like to make mobile contactless payments using tap and pay, then you can do that here with the Pixel 6a. Now the Pixel 6a continues the trend of having very good cameras on a mid-range phone. Now the cameras that we're getting here are pretty much carried over from the predecessor device, but at the same time, Google has further refined things with the machine learning. So overall, I'm really impressed with the photos and videos that I have captured from this device. And I would say that this phone takes the best photos that I've seen for any phone under $500. Now it's possible you might be able to get a flagship phone that's a little bit older for under $500 where it could have better photo quality. But for a mid-range phone that's brand new in 2022, this phone definitely takes the crown as having the best camera quality. And like I mentioned a little bit ago, I think really the only shortcoming here is that there is no 4K video recording with the front-facing camera, which especially is disappointing because I feel like nowadays, people are using the front-facing camera more and more, and especially for content creation. It seems like pretty much half the videos that I watch nowadays on TikTok, for example, are recorded with the front-facing camera. So I feel like them skipping 4K video recording for the front camera is definitely a bit of a disappointment. But let's now take a look at some video samples from this phone. What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, coming at you with a 1080p front-facing test video from the Google Pixel 6a. Now this is with speech enhancement turned on, so I'm definitely curious to know what you think of the audio quality, and of course the video quality as well, so definitely let me know in the comments section. And here is a 4K test video at 30 frames per second with the Google Pixel 6a. And it is raining outside right now. We do have very quick autofocus in video mode, which is great. And then another awesome thing too is that you can easily switch to the ultra wide angle camera while you're recording the same video. Now overall, I am a big fan of the hardware that we're getting here with the Google Pixel 6a. Now keep in mind that even though this phone looks very similar to the Pixel 6 and Pixel 6 Pro, this material on the back of the device is plastic, so it certainly won't be as durable as glass, which is found with those other phones. But at the same time, given the less sophisticated materials here, I feel like the phone still does look very nice. It feels premium as well, and it certainly doesn't feel cheap by any means. On the left side of the device, we just have the slot for the SIM card. Then on the right side of the phone, we have the power button, volume up and volume down. Then up top here, we have the noise canceling microphone. Then on the bottom of the phone, we have the speaker, USB-C port for charging and data transfer, and also the microphone. And then on the back of the phone, we just have the dual camera setup, the flash, and Google logo. which is the predecessor to this device, was launched about a year prior. Now the A72 on its own. Now the Pixel 6a is an excellent device for watching video content. Not only do we have a really large canvas here at 6.1 inches, but as I mentioned earlier, we have great viewing angles on this display, and to make things even better, this phone has very good speakers, especially for a mid-range device. This phone does have stereo audio, so when you're watching videos or listening to music or doing anything involving the speakers, you will be getting audio coming out of the main speaker on the bottom of the phone, but also the earpiece as well. Now that's not something that you find necessarily with devices lower end than this, but it is expected in the mid-range segment. So I'm not necessarily that surprised that we have stereo audio, but I feel like they did a great job implementing it, and definitely the speakers get plenty loud that you can just sit back, relax, and watch a video. But this concludes my review of the Google Pixel 6a. In general, I think this is one of the best phones that you can get for under $500. I guess really the only thing that's worth considering otherwise is the competition out there. Now there's a lot of competition in the mid-range space, especially in the US, and a lot of carriers too tend to offer very generous promotions. For example, I know that Cricket Wireless offers the Galaxy A53 5G for $350 if you are a current customer and you just want to upgrade. So that's just one example of if you go to a carrier and you want to get a mid-range phone, that you'll be spending a lot less than the MSRP. Now I don't know what deals are currently being offered for the 6a since this phone is still relatively new, and of course that will change as time goes on, but I know this phone is hitting a lot of the various carriers, and I definitely hope that they'll be giving this phone just as many discounts and promotions as its competitors so that it does end up being a sales success. Because I know there's a lot of people that walk into a carrier store, they don't want to spend too much money, and they ask what's on sale. And typically, people do end up being steered towards Samsung just because they do offer their phones at such large discounts compared to the MSRP. So again, I think this phone can also be an equal success to many of the other leaders when it comes to mid-range devices. I know the 5a was a big success as well, but I definitely think that if the carriers can push this phone a little bit more than they have in the past, Google will definitely pick up quite a bit of market share when it comes to smartphones. But I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Again, this is a gift from Google, and I am part of Team Pixel, but thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next one.